I conversed with one of my followers at the last video where I thanked Jack Dorsey for putting the real Brent back on Twitter, but apparently it didn't last very long. And here's what my commentator said. He said, "I'm not sure," referring to the fact that my name was mentioned on Brent Spiner's Twitter, where somebody said, "Put Gail on the show." He said, "I'm not sure if the clone has the tweet muted or blocked. It would still show up for you, just not for him. If the clone hasn't blocked or muted, he won't even see the tweet about you being on the show. Might be the real Brent, but I'm not convinced." Ronnie at YouTube. My answer: been studying the Brent Spiner Twitter, and there was a definite personality change on this Twitter, and I noticed it on July the 29th, and I think part of the 30th. I know Brent like the back of my hand, and actually it appears that he used quotes correctly. I just noticed that what he said was not in quotes. I made a comment about him. Though Brent does have a habit when he writes of using double quotation marks inside of double quotation marks, but he didn't do this here. So apparently that was Lori's brain control getting me confused. However, Brent only appeared to be at his Twitter for about one day. Lori must have murdered someone to get the clone back on Brent's Twitter. And my further answer is I told him, it looks like you might be right. The Brent clone appears to be back. He may be using clone versions of the internet, which is very advanced technology. And then he replied, "True, if anyone would know, it would be you. It could very well be him, but I don't think Jack had anything to do with it. Buddhism is cool, but Jack isn't a Buddhist." I said that I didn't say Jack was a Buddhist. I just thought he respected Buddhists. He just meditates. He says Jack has very strong demonic vibes, in my opinion. Definitely on psychoactive drugs. Ronnie at YouTube. My answer: I never said Jack Dorsey was a Buddhist, though I think he respects Buddhism. I was just trying to say that I have no problem with his meditation practices, which also happens to be a part of Buddhism. As far as Jack's character, I suspect that he's trying to run Twitter with integrity, but he's up against the Lori McBride Jesuit empire. This bitch can even control President Trump using Melania. You check. I have an earlier video about that. Go through my channel. And Vladimir Putin. Boy, are there lots of lies about Putin out there. So Jack is probably a piece of cake to Lori McBride. On a further note, all of Brent's tweets that he posted on July the 29th about him singing in Las Vegas with a band at a Las Vegas con are either deeply buried or missing. I think the real Brent was so excited about having his Twitter back, he wanted to sing to show that he's the real Brent, because his clone can't sing worth a hoot. The clone's too shallow to sing with meaning. It appears the clone deleted those tweets from the real Brent at his official Twitter. I can't find him anymore. I wish I'd made a screenshot of them for evidence. It was the real Brent who opened a Twitter account in 2008. But the clones, I think it was 2008, but the clone started inserting himself into the Brent Spiner official Twitter account around 2014, so that by 2016, he had about 95% control over it. By 2017, the clone had 100% control of Brent's Twitter. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the Brent Spiner clone is probably responsible for the shutdown of @BrentSpinerMD at Twitter. Lori's dropping bombs and making me cough. Which was a Twitter account opened by the real Brent Spiner to communicate with me and have a voice on Twitter. Ironically, the clone shut down Brent's authentic Twitter at @BrentSpinerMD on Brent's birthday, February the 2nd, 2018, where I wished the real Brent happy birthday at his Twitter at @BrentSpinerMD. I guess that's when the Brent Spiner clone got the evidence he needed that the Twitter account at @BrentSpinerMD was guilty of impersonation. But it's the clone who's the impersonator, not the real Brent, who suffered so much torment because of his Jesuit handler, Lori McBride. Actually, the clone's real birthday is variable depending on which Brent Spiner clone we're dealing with. There have been dozens of them created, maybe hundreds. They're expendable. And Lori kills some of them off after they make a convention appearance, like if the clone needs to be in two places at the same time. I doubt any living Brent Spiner clone is older than 2 to 4 years old, though, which may explain the extreme immaturity coming from these clones. They do have the technology to transfer memories from any human into any clone, though, so keep that in mind. And the reason they look so old is the use of accelerated growth hormones, which causes a baby to age very fast to get the imposter to the correct age to fool everybody. Once the baby reaches the proper age, he then starts aging at a normal rate. That's how Jesuit accelerated growth hormones work. This is all UFO, Satan's fallen angel technology. Lori McBride's a real problem because we're not able to execute her. She has Antichrist powers, meaning she cannot be killed. She literally meets with Satan at least once a week. Of course, this is all super covered up, and her public persona is a big lie. She publicly portrays herself as Brent Spiner's wife, who's had a normal relationship with him since the 1990s. Actually, she's a clone prototype, and there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of Lori McBride clones created since 1992. We execute one, and then another pops up. Now, there always seems to be one version of Lori McBride that we cannot kill. Jesus has allowed her to have Antichrist powers, meaning the Antichrist cannot be killed until the final battle in order to fulfill biblical prophecy. So basically, I and Jack Dorsey are up against Satan himself. It's no wonder we can't destroy Lori McBride and her army of clones and their influence over us all. Though Jesus did promise that I and my men would defeat the Jesuits, he said it would be in an awesome way. It apparently has not happened yet. That bitch, Lori McBride, clone number 1, used brain control and drug rape to obtain Brent's semen. Basically, when I refer to Lori McBride, I'm referring to all the Lori McBride clones that have been created since 1992. There have been thousands of them. We've executed many of them, but now we are unable to execute the clones, or at least the main clone, because Lori McBride has Antichrist powers. Lori McBride, clone number 1 or 2, artificially impregnated herself and created Jackson Spiner, using the baby to trap Brent into a marriage with her and to destroy any chances he'd marry me. He's been wanting to marry me since 1991. The Jesuits have been changing Lori's eye color from brown to blue and back. When Angelina Ballerina was in power, they gave Lori blue eyes, possibly to honor Angelina, who had blue eyes. All these clones, and Camilla Alves, Matthew McConaughey's Jesuit handler, is also a clone, have been created to compete with me for the men who are on my marriage list, like Vladimir Putin, Brent Spiner, Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, Hugh Jackman, Keanu Reeves, and others. Though thousands of men who were on my marriage list defected to Lori McBride when I laid down the law and said I only wanted to have actual sex with my husband, Brent Spiner, when I really marry him, and perhaps the top 10. Jesus gave them vagina butts, and they were making such rabid love to each other's vagina butts. They were destroying the vaginas, and I thought, this is not going to work. And that's when I laid down the law. And but they could have brain-to-brain group sex with me anytime they want. I don't have a problem with that. But apparently, anyways, they got furious when I said that when I actually marry the men, or Brent, I only plan to have sex with Brent or maybe the top 10. That made them furious, and they went to Lori, who gladly gave them all the morbid sex they wanted. And the clone doesn't mind that his wife goes to bed with thousands of men besides himself because he's in it for the money. He doesn't care about love. That's all talk, so he can keep his cushy bank account. So, Lori gave them all the morbid sex they wanted. They could have had brain-to-brain group sex with me anytime. I don't have a problem with that, but apparently that wasn't good enough for them. So they defected to Lori. Brent apparently thought that all men felt about me like he does, so he allowed too many men on my marriage list. By the way, the marriage list was never my idea. I think my men created it because they needed, there's a gnat here, they needed a support group of like-minded men to deal with Jesuits. Jesuits are a handful. The men should have understood how I feel about intimacy with my husband because I spelled it all out in my prenup agreement with them. Those men who defected were truly evil and cared more about satisfying their lust and pride. I mean, they think I care about their celebrity status. I don't give a hoot. But apparently they think they're super hot, and I should have been willing for them to devastate my vagina to honor their lust, that I should have felt honored that all these multimillionaire men wanted me. I don't give a flip. You think I cared about your money? I'm not as shallow and wicked as you all are. Anyways, I'm so ashamed of them. That's so. If I was in charge of my own marriage list, I'm certain I would not have ever allowed them onto it in the first place. We used to have very good mind and emotion reading technology before the Church of Gale spaceship was destroyed in our battle with Angelina Ballerina on January 6, 2017. Though it's been rebuilt, it's not as good as it used to be, so those men fooled us. Bunch of shallow, good-for-nothing jerks is what they are. And they project their shallowness onto me because they're obsessed with their fame and their celebrity status. They think I care about that stuff. They apparently think every woman should worship them and consider it an honor that they'd want to have sex with them. Sorry, guys, but I actually care about what you're like on the inside. And if you don't have true honor on the inside, I don't want you. Goodbye. I don't give a flip about your money. Anyways, to complicate matters even further, I have a sister who became insanely jealous of me when she learned I really do have all these famous men in love with me. And my insanely jealous sister, Sandra Metcalf, has sided with Lori McBride. It seems history repeats itself because my Oshu Fujiwara ancestors fell because of treachery inside the royal family. However, with Jesus on my side, I don't expect to lose, even with betrayal within my own family. Satan does not want me, the King David woman, to have any influence. I've been targeted since my birth because of my King David, Catherine the Great genetic profile. Yeah, the Cold War was started because of me. I'm serious. As unlikely as that profile may seem, much of my life's a miracle. So I think I'm just part of God's plan for these times, and Jesus knew he could rely on me to be on his side. So he allowed me to come into being as the miraculous King David woman. I'm the literal reincarnation of King David. I believe Jesus has actually used me to add to the biblical canon. So I'm real important to Jesus. He's even given me a Gale shield, which protects me from death because Jesuits and Satan are so obsessed with me. The Gale shield's empowered when I do the Gale commandments. I actually have quite an impressive ancestry. Aviator Howard Hughes was my great uncle. Like I said, I'm literally half King David and 60% Catherine the Great with a 10% overlap between King David and Catherine the Great. The Japanese miniseries Homura Tatsu, which I'll have a link to underneath this video, is about my Japanese ancestors who gave me my Catherine the Great genes. Lori's maintained her relationship, actually marriage by gunpoint, with Brent, using extortion, lies, and her power as Satan's right-hand person, with Satan loaning to her his UFO fallen angel technology that produces clones, clone versions of the internet, and controls the internet, mainstream news, and most of the Democratic and Republican Party in the U.S. Anyone who won't fall in line with Lori McBride gets defamed, murdered, their identity stolen, and their reputation destroyed. So, I'm going to give Jack Dorsey a break. I realize he's this supposedly super rich CEO of Twitter, but believe me, when Lori McBride targets you, she can turn a super rich celebrity or big shot into bankruptcy within a year, probably. In fact, I think that's what she's doing to the real men, the real Matthew, Brent, Gerard. And now if Jack Dorsey is really trying to help me, she'll be targeting him next. So he may not be so rich in a couple of years if he sticks to my side. Jack, just be true to your manhood and true to honor, and Jesus will stick up for you. Okay? I'm going to tell you this, Jack. When I look in your eyes, I see a good man there. I don't believe Lori McBride's going to get you. We'll see if I'm right.